Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hi, welcome to the show. This is Lydia Dietrichson, your radio host. Today my guest is Natalie Klun, Taking the Sell Out of Sales book author and the real estate sales coach. And today we are going to talk about brokers, team building, and the B.A.N.K methodology that Natalie is using successfully to train her clients.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Tell me about what you do, Natalie, and the types of customers you help.
Okay. So as you mentioned, my name is Natalie Klun. I have been in the real estate sales industry for a little over 12 years, in sales in general, a little over 20 years. The last 2 years, I've been venturing out into the training arena. One of the things that I found that I really enjoyed about my time in the real estate industry is helping other agents build successful businesses. So the last 2 years, I've been focusing on training. I do a lot of work with brokers, so to say, where I go in and help them with their sales training, with their teams, with the individual agents. I work with real estate agents in helping them build their business. I have a specific methodology that we train, and it is a system that helps you increase your sales up to 300%. And seasoned agents, so agents who are maybe just kind of hit a plateau in their business and wanting to take it to the next level, as well as working with agents who are new to the industry. So try to help as many people as I possibly can.
I see. What led you to this field?
It actually was through kind of the journey of my own business. You know, as a real estate professional, there's a lot of ups and downs in the industry. And I think a lot of people, when they get into the real estate sales industry, there's a misconception that it's an easy business, or that it's something that when you get your license, business just falls into your lap, which it was really kind of the opposite of that. And through my own struggles of trying to figure things out and trying to really find my place within the industry. And that's what actually led me to write the book called Taking the Sell Out of Sales. And it was through my business finding my purpose, which is to help people and to serve people. And it just happened to be that my real estate business was my platform to do so. And I literally was able to transform my business through that process that I developed and that I wrote about. And what I think a lot of people, and what happens a lot of times in the industry, as we get caught up in the processes and we get caught up in the competitive nature, and we really forget what our role and what our purpose is, and that is to help people. And a lot of times we're helping people with the largest investment that they're ever going to make. We're helping people with the place that they call home, where they raise their family, where they consider it to be their sanctuary or their safe place. And we interject ourselves into the process, and we forget that that's what we're there to do. So through that process of changing and transforming my business, which ended up resulting in a dramatic increase in my business, I started to seek out other tools or things that I could use to help support not only the agents in my office, but to help continue to take my business to the next level with the philosophy of service in mind. And I came across a sales training company called B.A.N.K, and they teach a personality sales training system that basically teaches you how to speak the language of the four personality from their perspective. So, you know, in a lot of cases when we're out and we're interacting with prospects or leads or generating new business, as salespeople, we have a tendency to speak from our perspective. So considering only one of the personality types amongst the four, which is a reason why most of our closing ratios tend to be around 25%. And with this sales system, B.A.N.K, it gives you the ability to learn the language of the three other personality types and the tools and indicators that each of the personalities put out to be able to identify which personality you're working with and then which language to speak. So you at that point can cater your presentation, your communication, whatever that may be, to really speak to the values and the things that are considered that are most important to that personality and when they're making a decision. And I feel there's a responsibility as agents and brokers when we're out there working with our communities and helping our customers and our prospects that we really truly, learn the language and what's important to them versus continuing to speak from our perspective. And there's a natural service element that falls into your business, which I believe very much in the philosophy that when you're giving, you open yourself up to be in a state of receiving. So genuinely coming from the place of service, arming you with tools and the skill to be able to determine, and understand the 4 personality types, to determine which personality type you're speaking with, and then to be able to speak the language and to the values of what's most important to that customer or to that prospect to serve them on the highest level possible.
Natalie, you mentioned earlier that brokers you help get a 300% sales increase.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's the number. Can you tell more about that?
Absolutely, absolutely. When you hear the number 300%, you're like, wow, that would be a lot of work to see an increase up to 300%. When in actuality, it's much more simpler than what it sounds. So let's use, for example, there's 4 personality types. It's scientifically proven that the entire human race can be divided up into one of 4 groups. So when you are speaking from your perspective, you're then resonating with the people who are also the same personality type as you. And that's where the 25%, the average closing ratio is around 25%. Now, when you are always speaking from just your point of view or just your perspective, you're delivering the right script and the right presentation 1 out of 4 times. Which means 3 out of 4 times you're delivering the wrong script, the wrong presentation. You're not communicating to the 3 other personality types because, in a sense, we speak a different language because our values within the 4 personalities, they are very, very different. So if you take the time to go out and learn the values of the 3 other personality types from the perspective of the customer, a lot of personality systems out there will teach you a lot about yourself, but the missing link is they don't teach you about your customer. So this particular system that I teach, it teaches you how to learn the values from the perspective of the customer. What are things that they consider when making a buying decision, right? So you go out and you learn the 3 other personality types language. I love to use the analogy language because to me, that's when it really clicked when I learned this. If you go out and you're just speaking the same language to everybody, not considering that some people may not speak the same language that you do, then there's a disconnect. You're not going to be able to enroll them in working with you if they don't understand what you're saying, right? So you go out and you learn the language of the 3 other personalities. You are now able to expand those who you communicate to and that you can speak to the values of what's important to them, which is then how you can increase your sales up to 300%. So it's more or less just understanding the 4 personalities, having more than one presentation or more than one way of communicating with people, which most salespeople, this is a trap that we all fall into, is most of us only speak from our perspective, which means we only have one presentation, we only have one set of scripts, and we use the same thing over and over, versus considering that there are a total of 4, and then having 4 presentations, 4 scripts, 4 ways to communicate specific to the 4 personality types. And that's what I help people do, is I help them to understand the 4 personality types, to have the tools and to understand the indicators that each of the personalities put out there, because we're always putting out signs and indicators, and then being able to help speak to those personalities, which is then giving you the ability to increase your sales, because you can now speak to more than just the one personality.
I see. Interesting. You said that you help brokers build a successful team. How do you do that?
So what I do is a lot of times, and I can understand the perspective of the brokers because I am a broker myself and I do have a team that works underneath me. And a lot of times as the broker, your team and your agents are looking to you for training, looking to you for advice, looking to you for help in them building their business. And a lot of times people will make decisions based on those sorts of services that the broker offers based on, what the needs are of the agent. So what I do is I will go into brokers and I will teach them the methodology, and then I can go and teach their team. So whether they have 5 agents, whether they have 100 agents, it depends on the size of the office. I will go in and introduce their team, their office to the training system, and then based on what their needs are as a broker and what services that they want to participate in, to then help build their team, make their team stronger, and be a service to their agents too, because at the end of the day, if their agents aren't doing well, they're not doing well.
Absolutely. What's the biggest misconception or myth brokers have?
I think misconceptions from a training perspective. And this is my personal belief. I think that a lot of the training that we have access to, and one of the things that I like about the show that you're doing and the mission that you have, is to change the perception of the industry. Unfortunately, the real estate sales industry has a bad reputation because there are those kind of hard push type sales people that they don't consider, and they kind of dehumanized the sales process, I guess, is the only way that I can describe it. So a lot of the training that we have available to us is outdated. A lot of us have been told and taught over and over again that sales is a numbers game. Sales is a numbers game. When in actuality, that's the greatest myth ever told in sales. The sales is not a numbers game. It's actually a people game. And it's being able to understand people, which is then what allows you to get ahead in your business. But we've all been taught and told over and over again that sales is a numbers game. So I think a lot of the misconception from a training perspective is we keep going back to the training that we have available. And have you heard the thing where if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result, that's the definition of insanity. So I think what happens is we go back to just what is there instead of looking at how can we reinvent the wheel, how can we find something, new or different that empowers us instead of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So I think that's the biggest misconception, is just some of the outdated training that we have access to. And, a lot of brokers, some of them in a sense are producing brokers, so they don't have time to go out and create and reinvent the wheel as far as training is concerned. So that's where they bring people like myself in who can help their team accomplish high results.
So sales is a numbers game.
I think it's the doing the same thing over and over again. So following the philosophy that sales is a numbers game versus considering that it is a people's game, and that we have a responsibility as salespeople to understand people. When we study sales, we have a tendency to get ordinary results. But when we shift our focus and we begin to study people, and why do people make the decisions that they make, and what are the values that they consider when making a decision, that's when we begin to have extraordinary results.
I see. Understanding people is really important.
Yeah, helping you to understand people versus focusing on sales is really focusing on people, because at the end of the day, I think it was Brian Tracy that said all business is a people business, right? So we've lost sight in some sense that on the other end of the phone or the other end of the email or the other end of the Facebook post or the tweet or whatever it is, we've got technology that's inundating us with information 24/7, that on the other end of that communication is another human being and another person. And particularly in the real estate industry, my gosh, a lot of people, when they're investing their money or they're getting ready to move their family, these are very emotionally charged decisions, and not taking into consideration that it is a human being, and versus just trying to pump through the numbers like most salespeople unfortunately have been conditioned to do. We lose sight of that, and that's where I feel there's going to be a change, a shift, where we're going to start to, customers are going to expect it. And in order to really change our outcome and our outlook, is to really begin to change our perception of what we do, what our business is, what the industry is. And then I think that's how we're able to change the perception of the industry. It happens one by one. Individually, we go out and we help change the perception of the industry. And then when a number of people who are on the same mission of doing that, and they're doing that by changing the way that they approach their business, leading with the intention of service, using their job as their platform to serve others, to help others. And then particularly in the real estate industry, we have a huge responsibility that I think has been overlooked for a really long time, you know?
I completely agree. Natalie, can you tell about an instance or a story when your customer became positively surprised about how you delivered your service?
I have one story. It's a little bit more of a personal story that I would love to share because this is actually one of the agents that works for me. And when she started in the industry, she was an appraiser. That was her background. And she decided that she didn't want to do that anymore. She wanted to get into the sell side of the industry. And I got to work with her from the ground level. And one of the things that I had noticed in working with her, these are the same techniques that I apply when I'm working with other people's team. But her story really touched me, and that's why I want to share it. And the journey of helping her build her business, I would notice when she would start getting some momentum. And I would go to her and I would say, what shifted? Because in the beginning, she really had a hard time on the phones and following up with the web leads. She just wasn't comfortable with it. And I remember when I started to see a shift in momentum, and we spent a lot of time together, working together and really, helping her to build a successful business. My goal with any agent that I train is to help them get to six figures within the first year that they start working with me, whether they're new in the business or seasoned. This applies to the teams for the brokers that's just more of a general sense. But every time I noticed a shift in momentum with her, I would ask her what changed or what happened. And I remember the first time I answered this question, she goes, "Well, I read your book." And that completely changed the outlook on how I view my customers. Because a lot of times we get nervous when we're having to spend time on the phone. A lot of people don't like to do the work on the phone that's required in our industry, and they don't like to approach people because they feel nervous. And then when you take yourself out of the equation and make it about them and not about you, then the nerves completely disappear. And that's where the intention of service comes in. And then another instance, when I became certified and licensed to teach the B.A.N.K methodology, the first team that I trained was my own. And we closed the office for half of a day. I held a team training and we trained on the B.A.N.K methodology. And she left the training and called me afterwards because she had to go to a listing appointment. And she said, "I'm so glad we had this training today because I've had this prospect that I've been working with. I've been really struggling because I just couldn't get a read on her. And as soon as I arrived at the appointment, I recognized that she is a blueprint personality, and I was able to shift my presentation because that's how quickly you can apply this B.A.N.K system to your business." And she was able to secure the listing, and the client ended up canceling the other agent appointments that she had for interviews and signed the listing with her because she was able to understand and speak the values to that customer. And then here just recently, I was doing a check-in with her after the end of the year because she's coming up on her 3rd-year anniversary. And I did a check-in with her for last year, and she just paid me a compliment that she said, "You've really given me confidence. I wouldn't be where I'm at without you." And I really was grateful to hear that because I believe that a lot of times we forget and we don't realize the impact that we're able to have. And that really meant a lot to me. In fact, I did a training up in Edmonton, Canada. I want to say it was like August or September. And I had a gentleman who went through the training that I had facilitated. And then he went on to do further training. And I got an email from him not too long ago. And he was just like, "This is life-changing." And when I get emails like that, it takes me back for a minute because, first of all, to be helping someone when they tell you it's changed their life, that to me is the greatest compliment that you can ever receive. So those are just a couple of stories that I always like to share because they just really meant a lot to me. And that's really what drives me when I hear that, or when I see when I was doing a training last week, and I see the faces light up when they start to see how impactful this training is. And then they come to me afterwards and they're just like, "This is a game changer." I hear that over and over again. And that's really what fuels me and motivates me to keep going.
Some exciting stories. Natalie, what's the biggest problem brokers have and want solved when they come to you for your services, and how do you help them solve it?
The biggest problem would be running out of ideas on what to train. And a lot of brokers, their specialty is building a real estate brokerage and building a team. Their strong suits may not be in the training arena. So they rely on outside trainers, outside coaches to help them. So I think the biggest problem is just giving them something that provides value to their team versus them having to figure it out. Because that can be a daunting task when you have people that are looking to you for your help and your guidance as a leader. And, there's only so much you can do. At some point, you then now have to enlist the help of those that have specialized training.
What would be your best piece of advice for brokers who want to build a team by themselves without your help?
Well, I think there's two components. First of all, the bank training is also going to help you build your team. I think a lot of times we don't take into consideration personality science when we're building a team. The best thing you can do for yourself and for your team is to determine what their dominant personality types are and then position them in those roles that best suit them, that they enjoy being in and that they are the most productive in. So I think, number one, it helps the broker to be able to manage their team. It helps them as a leader. It helps them to position their team where their strong suits are able to maximize their productivity. And then, of course, on the other side of it, it offers a tool that is a high-value tool that offers great results to their team that their team can then take and go and apply to their own business. And I believe very much in the philosophy that when you take care of your team and you help them to be successful, when they're successful, everybody's successful.
That's so true. Natalie, can you tell more about the bank training itself? How long does it last?
So just this last year in July, B.A.N.K, which is the corporation that offers the bank training methodology, they announced they released their bank virtual training. So what I typically do is when I go in and do what is called an introductory training. So we basically just scratch the surface of the methodology. And then what B.A.N.K has done is they've created a really high-level virtual training program where it has 3 levels to it. So you've got the core, which is basically the fundamentals of the methodology. Then you have the pro, which is a little bit more interactive. The pro is when it starts to teach you how the indicators that each of the personality puts out there. And what we're helping you and training you to do is to crack the personality code so you can take it to the bank, right? And then we have the platinum level virtual training, which is how do you take the methodology and put it into your written communication, whether it's your marketing, your presentations, those sorts of things. What are the different trigger and tripwires? What can you say to get people to say yes? What do you want to avoid to keep them from saying no to you as a salesperson? So my focus when it comes to the training is I like to come in and do an introduction and talk about the methodology and how it works. And then we have the bank virtual training, which we can then set up our clients and our customers to continue. And then that way they can do the training at their own pace. They can do it at home. They can do it in the evenings. They can do it on the weekends. They can do it early in the morning versus having to go to one set scheduled class, which we do live training as well. But the other component of it, too, is to really learn something and to integrate it. There's a repetitious component to it. So the virtual training allows you the ability to go back and revisit it, as much as you need to be able to then fully integrate it into your life and into your business, because it's about communication in general. And we've had a lot of people go through the training and come back and be like, wow, this has changed my family, the way I communicate with my kids or the way I communicate with my spouse. So there's byproduct benefits to the training as well.
How can a broker who wants to build a team or get some training find out more about you and how you can help?
The best way to find out more about me is to visit my website, which is NatalieKlun.com. So that's NatalieKlun.com. Or more than welcome to email me. My email address is Natalie@NatalieKlun.com. by all means, you're more than welcome to call me. My number is 435-621-6084. I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm all over the place. So you can Google my name, and I'm pretty sure I'll pop up. But more than welcome to call me. More than welcome to email me. I've got some great videos and information that I can send out to anyone who's interested. And I like to personalize and customize the training based on the needs of the client. So I love to have a conversation, see what those needs are, and then we figure out a plan that best suits them.
Excellent. Now, summing up, is there anything you feel that is important to add to our conversation?
I think we've covered a lot. I don't have anything particular to add. I'm just really excited that you had me as someone to interview. I'm really looking forward to just helping as many people as I possibly can. I do believe that there are misconceptions of the industry, and I personally would love to be a part of helping change the perception of our industry, and then helping the people that are within the industry to really see that their business is more than a business. Like, there really is an opportunity to bring a higher purpose into play. It will then make your business not feel like work. I mean, it becomes more than that. And that's something that I'm personally excited about doing.
Great words to finish our today's talk. Thank you, Natalie, for sharing this interesting information with us. I personally have learned a lot. So understanding people is the key, and Natalie is a great real estate professional helping change the perception of the real estate industry. That's it. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.